Hey friends, happy Friday. I hope you all have had a good week. It's Miss Brisson here. I am going to read the next part of the book Ape that we started on Tuesday. So just to review, this book goes through 4 different types of apes, and it is a blend of both fiction and nonfiction. So we call this literary nonfiction. That was one of the questions for the text on Tuesday. A few clues for that is it's got 2 different types of fonts. This font goes through the story with the mom and the baby. And then we've got our font down here that gives true facts about the topic. So in this case, the orangutan. So you can see the difference. We also have got some great illustrations. They're almost photograph-like, but those are really, really vivid illustrations. All right, so let's just review. We read about the orangutan on Tuesday, and something that I learned that I hadn't known before was that they are vegetarians. They eat mostly fruit, and they love the durian fruits. So this is something that they really love to munch on. So today we're going to read about 2 more. We're going to read about the chimp and the bonobo, and I want you to be paying close attention as I read, because I want you to think about, all right, what are some similarities to these 2 apes and what are some differences? And I also want you to be paying close attention to some of the clues that continue to demonstrate that this is literary nonfiction. Remember, it's got a combination of both fiction elements and nonfiction. All right, so the chimp. Chimp lives with his brothers and sisters and uncles and cousins. They squabble means like play fight, and play and go roaming the hillsides, hunting down monkeys and digging up roots. Chimpanzees live in forests in Central and West Africa. I just love these illustrations. Here's a termite nest. Chimps poke down a hole with a long blade of grass, then pulls out the grass and licks off the termites. So termites are really little bugs. Chimpanzees spend a lot of time on the ground. They eat lots of different things, and they are very good at making and using tools. So you can see how these chimpanzees have used the blade of grass as a tool to get their food. Very clever. Chimp's gang sometimes gets in fight with other chimps gangs, so like their group. Nasty fights with a lot of biting and hitting. You can see that photograph there that's describing what's going on. Sometimes someone gets hurt. All right, so let's review the chimp. They eat a lot of different things. They live in Africa. They are very clever and use different tools to help them get their food. And they can also, they go in groups or gangs, and they can be a little bit rowdy or feisty at times, and they can get in fights with other gangs. So like I said, I want you to be thinking of some differences and some similarities that the chimpanzee has to the bonobo. All right, there's a great picture. Bonobo chatters and hoots and calls to her friends while feasting on figs high off the ground. Bonobos live in the rainforest of the Congo Basin in Central Africa. They eat mostly different kinds of fruits. She drops from the tree and moves quickly and quietly, watching and listening. There may be hunters or leopards nearby. So I can infer that a leopard might be some type of predator that they want to stay away from. bonobos spend a lot of time feeding in the trees, but often travel on the ground from one feeding place to another. Back in the treetops, Bonobo lives with her friends, safe again. So it sounds like they like to stay in the trees, but they'll go down on the ground if they really need to. All right, and that is where we're gonna stop for the day. We've got one more section, the gorilla. You know what? We've got a few more minutes. I'm going to read the last ape, and then I still want you to think about some similarities and some differences. All right, so the gorilla, probably the most common or the most well-known of the four. Gorilla lounges chewing on bamboo stems and chomping on leaves. The silver hair on his back shows that he's old. You can see that silver hair on his back. Gorillas live in the forests of Central Africa. They can get to be 40 or 50 years old. Wow, so they can live for a really long time. Gorilla grunts to his family, then snoozes. He wakes up, plays with his baby, then snoozes some more. So it sounds like they like to sleep a lot. Gorilla lives in small family groups of one male with a few females, and they're young. They are vegetarians and spend a lot of time eating and sleeping. So it kind of sounds like us. They've got a mom, a dad, and the kids. He wakes up again, chews on some bamboo, builds a nest for the night, and lies down to sleep. So they really, really enjoy sleeping. And then I'm not going to read all of this, but this kind of goes into similarities of what they have in common with us as humans. Pretty interesting. One more thing I wanted to point out to you, which I thought was really great, is that this book has a map showing the locations in Africa where the 4 different apes live. So you've got the orangutans in orange, the chimps in red, the bonobos in green, and the gorillas in blue. Now, this is something that shows that it is literary nonfiction because it's got that map. So that's one of those nonfiction text features. And then we've also got an index down here that I know Miss Todd talked about an index yesterday in the oceanography book, but we've got some words: baby, eating, families, fighting, gangs, nests, playing, sleeping, swinging, tools, and all the page numbers that you can find those words on. And then there's just a few more websites down here at the bottom that talk about different organizations that are trying to save the apes. So this is something in the back of the book that has that nonfiction feature. So just a reminder, literary nonfiction is a combination of both fiction and nonfiction. We went through the story of each ape, and then it gave us some true facts about each type of ape. So I want you to think about some similarities and some differences between the 4. You don't have to write that down. The one exit ticket that I do want you to write down and send to us is what features remind you of fiction in this book and what features remind you of nonfiction in this book. So I want you to give me 2 features for each. So 2 features for fiction that are in this book and 2 features for nonfiction that are in this book, specifically what I read today. All right, let us know if you have any questions, and like I said, have a great Friday.